Good evening, folks. It's very cold, and I just lit a candle just to warm up the place a little. It's chilly. I don't know, weird stuff been happening here. Anyways, I hope everybody's been doing well. Halloween is almost upon us, and strange things begin to happen. My story for today involves my mom. As you all know, she passed away some time ago, and she used to tell me. Actually, the family. It's a story from the family. They used to tell me that about a. Okay, the setting takes place, and this is real. This is real stuff. It's not made up. Story takes place in a little town up in the Andes mountains in South America, Ecuador. It's a little town which is about 10 to 11,000 feet above sea level. Air is very thin. And you would not think that ghosts and things like that, goblins and gnomes, may not exist there. They do. Something strange going on tonight. Anyways, this happened probably about 1935 or so. My mom was about 12 years old or so. 10, 12, 13. She was not married yet. And it was my mom, my two aunts, and my grandfather and grandmother that rented a little apartment there. The reason that they moved there was because of a job that my grandfather had. Anyways, there was a room where one of my aunts, would sleep in, and she kept complaining every night that she would hear things like in the hallway, like somebody dragging stuff, dragging and stuff being moved around, metal being clunked around, and she said that they went on just about all night long, and she couldn't sleep. After 3 days or so, she had enough, and she asked my other aunt if she would change places with her. And my other aunt also, could not sleep. My grandparents, they couldn't sleep in that room. They said, I don't know, somebody's doing construction work in the middle of the night or something. Nobody could sleep. Anyways, my mom was the last one, I believe. She was the last one who slept in that room. And she never heard a thing. She slept perfectly well. Never a complaint from her. They had a cousin or an uncle one time come to visit them. He could not sleep. He could not sleep in that room. He said all he heard was people hammering and working and doing construction in the middle of the night. So, anyways, several years later, my mom married, and she was probably now in her, 18, 20. And they remember seeing the family that owned the place, and that they had they redid the place. There was no rehabbing going on in those times. And people don't rehab over there. Probably they do now, but they were fixing up the place. Maybe installing plumbing, or I don't know. Whatever. And all of a sudden they noticed that they're driving in these nice cars, nice fancy cars, dressing like they were millionaires, jewelry, all kinds of They smell good, good perfumes, and they had a nice house besides this property, and they looked very wealthy. And where did they get that money from? And then what happened was, when my mom married, she had a little kid, and what happened was that in the middle of the night they heard an explosion, and it's a little town of about 20,000 people maybe, and you hear when the train goes by, everybody hears it. If there's a gunshot being fired, although there were no gunshots being fired, and I never heard one. Whenever you heard an explosion, they heard an explosion in the middle of the night, and the next day they all gather. They read the paper, and they're informed that that house where my mom used to live in had exploded. And anyways, months went by and investigation went on. The owners wanted to claim their insurance policies, and after the investigation was done, they realized that it was not a fire, but it was an explosion. An explosion brought on by somebody that does not know that if you throw a match into an empty house where it's full of gasoline, it's going to explode. When apparently this guy put gasoline all over the place and lit and struck the match and threw it in there. As he throws it in there, he explodes. He's sent 200 feet away from the house, dead, before he hits the ground, and the whole thing goes up in fire. What happened afterwards was that they had found, they never admitted to it, but they had found, the rumors were that they had found treasures. And in those times, in those places, a lot of people used to store their money and cash and belongings in between walls, between the floors. They would open up a little space and hide their cash. There were no banks or any reliable banks in those times. And this is only 1930 or 40, but that's what people used to do. Banks were usually a thing of the big cities, and they were just coming into the small places, but small towns, and they would hide their money, and everybody knew that they had discovered a large amount of treasure, cash, jewelry, or whatever. So they were sent off to prison. They were there several years. Apparently they died afterwards, and that's the story. Treasure between walls. It's always intriguing what people do, and it's not a new story. That's other stories. What the hell is that? I think there's lightning. It's beginning to. Look at that. It's a scary night tonight, guys. You could hear the wind howling between the battlements and the casements. It's an old house. And that's the story for tonight. Have a good night.